What's happening, people? Welcome back to the 42nd episode of the Mini Adult Troubles. In today's podcast, I have with me co-founder of The Glitch and the host of a super duper popular podcast in the media industry, Advertising is Dead. Someone who I've been following and getting inspired from for quite some time. Varun Dugirala, welcome to the show and thanks for taking out time for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for the lovely introduction, and I'm quite excited. I mean, when I heard the name of your podcast, I was very intrigued, and then I breezed through it a little bit. I thought this will be fun to do.
Yeah, right. So I actually started this in 2019 when I was like 19-year-old, and I was a mini adult, right? And I had a lot of troubles, like even whatever. So I thought, let's start a podcast with the name Mini Adult Troubles. So that's how it originated. But to start with, advertising it, I think first time I listened to your podcast when you did it with Ranveer back like 1 year, 1.5 years ago, and from there on I'd be stuck with your podcast. Matlab, I'm super duper interested in this field as well, media industry and all that. And then one of the favorite podcasts that I love from your Advertising is Dead is the Tanmay Bhatt one. It's pretty amazing. I'm a huge Tanmay fan as well. So yeah. Right.
He's got some great insights, always.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So to start with, but I don't think a lot of people know about your journey before the glitch and all that. And I think a lot of credit goes to Advertising is Dead as well. But what happened before that? Like, if you can go back as MTV or maybe college.
So I had two sides to college. One was my lovely engineering degree. I said lovely, not in a good sense.
Yeah.
I mean, till then it was pretty standard. I did school, did my was in boarding school for some time in Bangalore, and I always liked to code. Coding was always my what I would fall back on, and unfortunately didn't get into computer engineering. Ended up getting into mechanical engineering. I was as a management student, not necessarily no merit there. I'm very open about the fact that through merit I didn't get in anywhere. Then somehow. Parents were like, "Chalo, we'll figure this one out," and so the engineering was tricky for me because I think mechanical and just like generally the environment wasn't something that suited how I was. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do and all that stuff, and I never worked in the engineering space. I ended up working for as an alcohol promoter. I used to work for Jack Daniel's whiskey and for Smirnoff very briefly, or more for Jack Daniel's, where I did about a bunch of months where you'd go to a bar, you'd give people 2 dice, they throw a dice, they get a 3, 4 or a 7, they'll win something. So great gig to have. You get to know all the bars, you get to know all the people there. So it was good fun, especially if you are last year of college, right? It's great to make extra money and yet spend time in a bar. But then kind of Symbiosis just kind of happened because between that and going to Symbiosis to my mass comm, I even worked in a call center. I worked in AOL cancellations. People from across America would call in and say, "We want to cancel our internet connection," and my job was to retain them. So I would do that from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. was my shift. So it was the world's worst shift. Highest traffic because it was regular time in America.
Yeah.
And generally was not the happiest place in life. Let me be honest. Was making money but wasn't happy. I ended up studying in media, and my couple of years in Symbiosis and Pune were actually some of my best because had a group of people around me who I really gelled well with. It was funny learning something around the whole creative space, which I found interesting and exciting. And so then post that is when MTV and Channel V happened, and then the glitch. So the career journey was quite short because between MTV and Channel V, did all of about 4-5 years of work at max, and then glitch started.
Yeah. So I was actually going through your LinkedIn profile. I saw a few recommendations and all that, and then I went through their profile as well, and I saw the Symbiosis thing as well. Like they had also done their masters in mass communication, television and all that. I think I don't remember his name, but he's currently working at Netflix, and he used to be working with you back in 2011, 2012.
Venki was our employee number 2. He claims 1, but that's a question between him and Prashant, who's still with us actually. And they keep talking about who was the first person we ever hired.
Yeah.
Venki technically joined first. Prashant was the person who was hired first. So I think
Oh, okay, got it. So what is this symbiosis story? I think where did you meet Tanmay? Also, I think you met him in college once. You were mentioning, in yeah.
So Tanmay was interesting as my final project in college because I studied audiovisual production, right? So I was always very confused. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I would keep jumping from one thing to the other. Like, wanted to do computers, ended up being in mechanical, like the alcohol thing, call center, everything else, right? So I joined Symbiosis as a PR student. I wanted to study public relations.
Yeah.
1 month later, I wanted to move to audiovisual production because that felt like filmmaking felt more interesting, and so somehow they let it happen because they were quite chill about it.
Yeah.
And as my final project, I was shooting our college fest. And all college fests have this thing called Mr. and Miss Fest, right? There's that whole personality contest thing. And our fest used to be called Festocom.
Okay.
And me and Rohit, my co-founder at Glitch, right? So both of us were in the same batch, and we were both like, let's rename this. And so we thought it will be fun to rename it Fox Stars because it rhymed with I mean, I don't know if I can abuse on this. No.
Yeah,
FOC.
go on.
Yeah, fuck, because it just sounded like fuck, right? So it just,
Yeah.
it was stupid, it was childish, but we were laughing about it. So they let us name it that way. I don't know why nobody objected from the faculty, but we renamed it to Fox Stars, and we basically did a lot. We made it a lot more because I'd just come back from MTV, so I had that hangover of my internship. So made it like a reality show. So people had like personality contests and there was stuff. So Tanmay had come down from National College to Pune to participate, and he actually won that contest. So I actually shot with him through that period. And I'm maybe one of the first people, or maybe I know he was doing it a little bit, but I think if earliest batch of people ever seeing Tanmay do stand up was me, and I had that on camera. I don't know where that footage is.
Nice.
It will be somewhere. Like, he'll kill me if I ever find it and release it. And then a couple of years later, after I started working for MTV after college, I did a reality show, and I should only primarily do reality TV. I did a show called On the Job, which was a job-based reality show, where every episode you'd have kind of someone come in and in 48 hours you get to experience real life of how a job is, and you have you have judges who are from that field or from that institution. So Tanmay, weirdly enough, was a contestant in the advertising episode.
Okay.
Contract Advertising was the agency we had tied up with for that episode. So Varun Thakur was also in that episode. So these guys were all contestants amongst other people, split into two groups. They had to come with a campaign for, if I remember right, I think Mentos. Or something like that, and one team lost and one team won and stuff like that. So a lot of these guys, now when I meet them, it's fun because I've actually met them all in very early stages of them doing all these things, right? So I know a lot of them as writers, as people who were in college. Like, someone was talking to me about Pooja Hegde the other day, right? The actress.
Yeah.
Pooja Hegde, interesting enough, used to be in National College, and she used to be the person all music channels would coordinate with to come and shoot on campus. So it's very interesting. I mean, it makes you feel old, but also the fact it's so interesting. There were so many people who were doing stuff in college, and how they all kind of moved into their own spaces.
Right. Super interesting. Like, in retrospect, I think it's been 15 years since all of this.
Yeah. So I finished I joined MTV out of college in 2007. So it's not that far back. So 2007, and then I was in MTV for a short bit, less than a year, about a year odd, and then Channel V for about 3 years. So, and Glitch started in 2009.
Right. So what was the vision of Glitch when you started? What did you plan? Because I think back in 2009, there was not a lot of creative stuff happening. Ab to kuch zyada hi ho raha hai. But tab ke hisab se to काफी आगे थे.
No, there was no vision. Let me be honest. हम लोग बहुत सारे story बोलते हैं, but most times we end up coming back to the honest truth was that I wanted to move to this work in this space because I always watched music television, right? MTV and Channel are the only two channels I watched through the 90s. I learned a lot of the stuff that I learned about how formats were creative. For me, creativity was from those channels, right? Those years, I mean, the early 2000s and the 90s were like when they were doing some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And so once I was in Channel V and they decided to stop playing music, my options were, okay, do I continue doing this? Do I try to maybe move back to MTV? Because that's the only other option which I could have at some point if I wanted to. Because I had trained with the team who had done roadies, so I knew how to do reality well and all that stuff. And Rohit said, okay, maybe I want to try doing something on my own. And he used to direct promos for Channel V at that point of time. And I used to produce shows.
Okay.
So I said, if you're doing something, why don't I do it with you? Because what's the worst that can happen? I know you're at that age when you were at I think also 26, 27, if not younger. I don't remember. It's been 11 years, 38. My math is terrible. So 27. So I was 27, 26 actually. I was 26 and we just decided to quit. And we said, okay, we don't know if we have enough money, but we only have to pay for our rent and our food and some beer. And as long as we can afford that, let's quit and try this out. Worst case, we'll find a job. And it was just after recession, right? 2008 was recession. People said, boss, people don't have jobs and you want to start a company. And then if you doesn't work, what if you don't find a job? And you are still like, we honestly said, yeah, we'll make a plan. But 6 months we spent thinking of the name. And 1 month about what we will actually do. So we had no idea what we were doing. We had one project in hand. And after that project, we had a lull of about 3 weeks where we did nothing. And we were like, okay, fine, naukri dhoondna padega. And luckily we got some work. Someone gave us a small project here and there, and then just some stuff kept the bills paid, and then slowly we kept pitching stuff, and it kind of happened.
So what was the creative landscape back then?
So there was nothing called digital content per se. The people didn't get the concept. Even like if you talk about social media at that time, it was very early days, right? Like Facebook was an early stage thing and all that stuff in India especially. So even if you went to someone and said, I want to do something in digital, they'd be like, but social media is free. Why should I pay you to do it, right? We've heard questions like that in the early days. And the larger production landscape was all television. So people were doing like TV shows, TV promos. That's what sustained us. I think the first 2-3 years, if not longer, a lot of our money to run the company came from doing television properties, right? So we would do shows for MTV, we would do stuff for Bindas, we would do all of that stuff. But we would still keep pitching digital. So we'd pitch a digital innovation, we'd pitch an interactive video, we will pitch. And at some point we became an agency because some brands we'd worked with said, okay, do you also want to do strategy? And we said, okay, how tough can it be? Because in hindsight was, as always, we jumped in and figured it out. As most of our early days were. But the landscape was very traditional. People were still thinking digital was that one thing you kind of had to do as an experiment. It was an experimentative thing. It wasn't necessarily a must do, right? I say that in many ways, podcasts and audio are today what digital was in 2009 because people are like, okay, we'll just try something out because we don't know what the numbers are going to be. We don't know what listens are going to be, etc. Very early days. And but it was a lot of fun because we could try the most random things and people would love it. So, and that's what made it fun. I think now obviously it's a lot more structured. So some of the stuff you'd want to try, you don't anymore.
Got it. So you mentioned podcast and all that. Where do you think the podcast industry is going right now and where do you think it is? I think in India, Ranveer's podcast has channeled a lot of attention towards podcast, especially the Gen Z people.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on the podcast industry right now?
So there are I would say there are two categories of people who listen to podcasts, right? One category are people who, listen to a lot of American podcasts, listen to, like, who speak about American talk radio, who are in that traditional podcast mindset. Episode can be 2 hours, or, audio has to be a certain way, very journalistic, but also I think there are a lot of those rules there. Now, what I've come to learn is that you don't necessarily have to follow any rules anymore. Even the word podcast happened because Steve Jobs gave it that name, right? There was nothing called a podcast. It was just digital radio.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, the future of podcasts, honestly, is that we are looking for passive mediums of consumption. Everything you do in terms of watching a video, going through your social, all that, everything demands all your attention, right? Eyes and ears and everything else. Yeah. A podcast can just play in the background and what it actually does gives you the option to be active or passive versus what everything else is, right? So many times if you have an option for video, you switch on the video, but sometimes you might just be playing it in the background. And if you've even seen some of the samples of how Spotify tried to do it with the Joe Rogan podcast, etc., it's interesting because you don't have to do it all the time. I actually have been doing this for a couple of years, where I end up playing a YouTube video in the background, not really watch it, just listen to it, right? It
True.
feels a lot easier. You can also keep doing some other stuff while you do it, and because of that, you then have so much more time with an audience, right? And every brand I speak to, I tell them this is that if and this I forgot which one of the creators told me this. He said if someone comes up to you and takes a selfie with you, they follow you as a visual creator. Someone just comes up to you and starts talking to you like they've known you for years. You're a podcaster. Because generally you feel like you're sitting across the table in the same conversation, just that you might not be participating in most cases. But it's the podcaster's voice is in your ears, right? So you have such relatability, you have a relationship with that person because you genuinely feel like you've been next to them all this while. And that's something which is very interesting for brands to latch on to, right? Because you can actually build a very strong connection with audio. And there's so much you can do there. I mean, just like for me, education is a huge space for podcasts. We just started, but if someone focuses very strongly on education with podcasts, you can do so much with it. And so you can try like 30 seconds can be a podcast, 5 hours can be a podcast, and you can just play around with the format. I think that's the way to use it. It's like YouTube in the early days, if you ask me, is how podcasts are today.
Got it. Right. So one of my friends, Vedant Rusty, I was talking to him the other day, and I was speaking to him as well. Ki bhai podcast, batao, what's the future and all that. And he's super duper bullish on the podcast scenario as well. Like he has his stories with Rusty doing very well for him. Then the Raw and Real podcast that he does with a couple of guys, and then he's also started another Miss Tech with Jay. So he's doing 3 to 4 podcasts, and he's like, ki bhai, the next 3-4 years, podcast is gonna blow up, and that's the scenario he sees. But for me personally, if I talk about podcast, I see that as a great way to explore. I mean, I started this back in 2019, as I said. And the first podcast that I did was with this YouTuber called Yash Sharma. His channel name is Yash Sharma Fitness. And I've been working with him for like past 1.5 years. And that happened just because of the podcast interaction that we had, that the connection that we built, through the podcast. So podcast for me is very networkish and connecting that person. And as you mentioned, the audio connect. For me, this is not at all weird because I've been listening to your podcast and right?
Exactly.
Like, I'm just listening to you from the podcast.
It doesn't feel like you meeting me for the first time because you heard my voice in the past. And that's the beauty of it. And I was listening to another podcast. There's a couple of podcasts I listen to religiously. One's called Pivot, which I speak about quite often, even on I think everywhere I speak about it. There's something which they said on that, which I found interesting. They said that all creators will have multiple channels of distribution, which you develop over time.
Yeah.
One of those is all your social channels. One of them could be a podcast. One could be a newsletter. And the more channels of distribution you will have some overlaps of audience.
Sure.
But in most cases, you'll have also a different set of people coming up. Like even on a platform, like your audience on Reels on Instagram versus your audience for, let's say, an IGTV or a regular post will be very different in most cases. The more you look at that and you build it out as a creator, there's so much you can you can just reach a much larger audience without even realizing it. And I think that's really the way to look at it. When you mentioned that he has about 3 podcasts, right? I'm like in my head, like I don't think all of them will have the same audience. There'll be some sort of overlap, but it'll be very different. So it's great he's doing that as long as he can, find the time, which I think we all struggle with. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, true. I actually had a point in my mind which I forgot while you were speaking. What was it related to podcast only? Yeah. So you mentioned channels of distribution and all that, and that sort of clicked with the. I read an article a couple of days ago. Shefali Bhatt from Economic Times, she wrote that article about this creator equity system and all that. Ranveer and Tanmay investing in companies but not only for money, like give us 20% and we'll give 50 lakh or something. It's more or less like give us 10% and we'll give you 1 year worth of distribution from our end. We'll give you 6 posts on Instagram, 6 YouTube integrations, such stuff. Where do you think this part of the creator economy is going?
That for me is one of the biggest spaces, right? Because once you have channels of distribution and you have an audience, you are in a sense a media channel. Like Ranveer to me is not competition for other creators. He's competing with not even Facebook. He will be competing with, let's say, an MTV's page or like he's a media company. Like in my head, what was a traditional media company versus today? Like I was this is a very interesting article which I read, which is, and I forget the name of the company. It's called, Westbrook Media, right? Westbrook Media was started to create content around Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, and that entire Smith family. Basically, the guys who would follow them around, create content and all that stuff. Over the last couple of years, as you've seen Will Smith's social content kind of become this massive, all the stuff he does, they started building properties under that and selling it to brands. Some of those properties will go to specific platforms, some of those will go to channels, everywhere else, right? So these guys who are inherently were just creating his digital content, or rather for his social feeds, are now doing, like, when his movie is coming out, they're already working on the marketing and planning what he will do on his social as a separate series of content which will connect to that movie that will come next, right?
Yeah.
So just think of that scale of things. And I think there's so many Indian examples, like Rami is a great example. I think what Tanmay does is interesting, right? The fact that he has those 2 YouTube channels, right? One is his regular content, the other one is Honestly is a lot more about personal finance, neuroscience.
Correct.
And that's again him trying to find a different cohort of audience, different tribe of audience. And the more they all keep doing that, the more appeal you have to brands. Like, I write a newsletter which I started for fun in November, which has 1,000 subscribers. It's a small number compared to what I would have on, let's say, the podcast. But that 1,000 people reading what at least getting what I write every week in their inbox. Again, very different audience. So if tomorrow I'm doing, let's say hypothetically, if I want to write a book, I know that will be my audience. I can first set of people I can latch on to.
Yeah. True.
It becomes that. So in a sense, there's an audience for everything, and you just, as no small or big, just how engaged are they?
Yeah. That Tanmay point is a very amazing one, because he's super interested in fintech as well, with Kunal Shah and all those people. So he has literally made a channel niche specific to finance, and he has invested in companies like Smallcase as well. So imagine a integration like Honestly 6 months contract with Smallcase instead of equity. That's so super cool.
And it's not just that, right? They also get time with the creator. So what most startups have realized, and I think that's so true in the way the world is right now, is that more than money, it's time that also matters. So for instance, the startup, they're not just getting funding from him in any case. They're getting reach through his channel. They also get time with him. So even if it's like 4 hours a month with Tanmay gives them enough value from the stuff which they would want to do, rather than, let's say, hire an agency, right? In my mind, the influencers are going to be and already are one of the biggest direct competitors to every single agency out there.
Yeah.
Because they are creative, they understand the medium better than any of us do. Like, I learn more of the medium by just speaking to creators on the podcast, right? I feel that my knowledge of it has improved by talking to creators than any other space.
Doing the same to you.
Now I'm in that. So now people ask me, what do you want a designation? I'm like, I say put entrepreneur and creator is where I start putting it now. So when 2.5 years and this many episodes later, I can finally start putting creator next to my name. Now I'm finally I'm owning that tag.
Yeah. And just thought came in mind. Do you know about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, as well?
Yeah. So very, very surface level, right? I'm not fully there, but I know that I was reading the article about the first ever tweet being sold as an NFT.
Yeah. Twitter founder, 2.5 million.
For me, it's a scaling up of what eBay was, right? What eBay was supposed to be. Isn't NFT like if just like a bigger version of that in some ways? I mean, if eBay, what you buy in a bid would become something like this, I don't know.
It's an NFT. I'm also not super into all of this, but I understand that NFT sort of is, unique to that particular. For example, we were talking about from a creator's perspective. Imagine making a video. Tanmay is making a video with the integration of Smallcase. That video he converts into an NFT, which is a property of Smallcase.
Yeah.
And that's unique. That's not duplicable or उस type का कुछ इसका logic है, encrypted and all that. So yeah, and
the one thing I'm terrible at is anything around money and finance, which is why I had a couple of people write to me saying, why don't you put a personal finance tips? I'm like, do you know someone who will give me personal finance tips? Because I'm one of the safest people and the most conservative in the way investments and finance and to work. I'm like, just hire someone who's good at it, let them do that, listen to their advice is how I've always worked. But so NFTs, I know everyone's talking about it, so I've been meaning to read up about it. So now you're giving me almost like, okay, I need to really read about this.
Right. Like, so I read this quote from your event from the Tech Spark. I don't remember the name specifically, but you said that eventually your professional career teaches you creator life. your creator life flips it backwards. Can you?
Yeah.
What do you mean by this?
So over time, and I don't know, this is me trying to be professor in my head. After there's some theories, some frameworks you come up with, right? I always believed that there were many things of which what I do now. Like, why do I enjoy doing podcasting so much? And I went back to my childhood. Right? Sometimes you're gonna sit and just reflect on that. And I realized as a kid, one of the things I would love to do, and I would always do, is just go and talk to random people. Like, people have no idea knowingly. Walk into a train, my parents will not find me because I've gone ahead 5-6 seats, start talking to some random uncle over there, telling them what happened at home today morning. Right? I was that kid. And I'm like, one second, I used to do that, and I'm a podcaster now. So maybe, I mean, that is inherently what I am. It just kind of got lost in between. And then and this all happened. I was doing a TEDx at Mica early last year, and I was just kind of thinking of things to say, and this kind of idea kind of came up. And I realized that when you're younger, right, you do a lot of stuff just because you enjoy it, not because it helps your career, not because it's something that's for your profession or any of those things. Right?
Yeah.
It could be as random as like you enjoy just playing in the sand, or you like to paint. A lot of those things, as you get older, you're told that those will not necessarily help you in your career. We call them extracurricular activities, the often used term. But so I was saying that when we are born, we always have a creator animal inside us, right? So the creator in us tries to do all the fun stuff, which really brings our creativeness out. Then the career animal wakes up one day, and the creator animal goes into hibernation. Ki matlab tu abhi baith ja, you had your fun. Now it's time to be serious. Time for your career, and we all go through that loop of learning all the serious stuff for our careers and kind of going from ahead on that. And then what ends up happening is that at some point, I think because of the internet, now we're able to find a channel for our creator animal to do something, right? Because I think before the internet, if you were someone who was, let's say, an artist, someone who's a photographer, you just might be a doodler. You didn't have a channel to put stuff out for the world to see,
and monetize
even if you had a job and monetize it, right? And I think now we finally have that. So and it also, I think, helps both ways. I'm better in having conversations with clients today than I was even 2 years ago, because I feel that the more podcasts I do, the more I know how to have a good conversation, how to keep it in a certain direction, yet make it a good vibe. And that helps my professional career. So I said that you don't necessarily have to be a podcaster. You don't have to be a YouTuber. You could just be someone who likes art, who likes to cook. Every single creative side of you can actually help your professional side. I think there is a way to find how those two connect together, is what I spoke about. Is that somewhere, if you look at all the stuff that you really like doing in your work also, but you don't like doing, and then look at all the stuff you like doing as a creator, and you join the dots, it makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So I think the podcast I did with Viraj, he was also mentioning something similar, that passion plus creator economy is something that you're moving at as well. Our passion is, you can work on a passion and you can monetize that. Ali Abdal is a creator based out in UK who is a great, like, he always talks about this. Ki, bhai,
you're mentioning Ali Abdal.
Yeah.
I'm just showing the book he suggests. So I heard about Show Your Work
from
his YouTube channel. I've finished that book. I'm finishing the other book by this same author, and there's 3 books in all. But it's
Copy Like an Artist and all that.
Yeah. Steal Like an Artist. I think I forgot the third one. I forgot the third one. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah. I also forgot. I want to read these books. I'll get to that.
Very good.
Well. Yeah. Right. So
they're very quick reads. You can literally read them very quickly over a couple of days. It's not very long, and it's quite fun.
Got it. So for someone who wants to be in this creative industry, who realize it may be late, trying to create content online and trying to enter the industry in, like, not necessarily Netflix or something, that's, I think, too far ahead, but still just getting in touch with the industry. What do you suggest them to sort of, diversify? A 21, 22-year-old guy who has graduated in a degree which is way, way, way different from this creative industry.
What I was just saying about finding the creator in you, right? When someone turned to me the other day saying, I want to really show what I can create, I'm like, you now have everything you need to create, right? You can use your phone. You don't need to buy a camera. You have social media. So
sure.
When someone says, show me a portfolio, you could just maybe show them your Instagram page or show them your Medium blog or Substack. In many ways, those things are great to have, and those are channels you already have. Like if you're in college and you want to start a podcast, you can just start a podcast because you have an audience which is already captive, right? You have an audience which is in college with you. And if people from college are your guests only, then people will, it's a
speaking
smaller
about this
group,
on live
but
as
it's
well.
yeah, that's right. So it's an engaged audience, right? So find your group. You don't necessarily have to go wide. You will only get like thousands of people in initially, but get a really strong captive audience. And that's a great thing to show. So tomorrow, if you are going out and wanted to create something larger, you have like one of my favorite examples is the Russo brothers who made all your Avengers movies, right? The what they made before the Winter Soldier, which is their first Marvel movie, was they had directed episodes of a sitcom show, of a comedy show called Arrested Development, or was it I think Parks and Recreation, one of those two. I don't remember which one it was. So imagine these guys had just done like really small, fun comedy shows. And then they get the Winter Soldier. And the reason they got it is because they had shown that they knew how to work with multiple characters and yet give them all space. And they also came with an understanding of that. So you need to think about, if I want something tomorrow, if I want to work towards that, what can I create today that is almost building blocks to go there? So your building blocks could be that, okay, if I tomorrow want to really, let's say, have, my dream is to have a Netflix series, then how do I show all the elements that someone would say, okay, what's your portfolio? What have you done to come to this? Even if you want to get a smaller project first and move to a larger one tomorrow, the internet gives you the ability to create that content, build an audience, and have something to show to somebody who asks you, what do you have to show? Like, when the fact that everyone from Prajakta to Bhuvan Bam, all of them are creating much larger pieces now is because they constantly just made with what they had. And over time, they got that opportunity. So, I mean, that for me is the best way to do it. It doesn't matter what you studied. In most cases, I don't think qualifications really matter. Unless you're a doctor or an engineer and really want to work in those two specific spaces.
Got it.
But just keep creating stuff. And it's a marathon. Yeah. It's not like even when I started doing the podcast, I didn't know what it was. I thought it's a time pass thing I'll do while I do a job.
Yeah.
Now I give this in many ways, and I have to always keep that balance of saying, okay, I still have a job, I still do that, still have to give that entire focus at Glitch, but this is such a large part of my life now because I've become to truly enjoy it, but I also feel there's so much more I get from this that I channel to that and kind of build it up. Like I'd want to do a Netflix show one day. As like I look at, okay, why can't I do what a David Letterman does one day? Maybe not in the same way. But one can dream, right? And there's nothing wrong in dreaming. There's always going to be a bigger dream, and but that doesn't mean that you don't enjoy what you do today. So I enjoy doing my podcast a lot.
Yeah, me too.
But that also kind of helps you look at something you might want to do tomorrow.
Yeah, I think your vision gets created on the way. Just start something, and when each day at a time or each podcast episode at a time, you understand yourself better through the voice of the guest that's there. And you mentioned that it's marathon. I always ask this question: ki, how do these guys collaborate with Netflix and Amazon Prime and all these big companies? And I asked this to Devaya from All Things Small, and he mentioned that bhai, ek din mein kuch nahi hota hai, ek mahine mein kuch nahi hota hai. I've been in this industry over a period of 12 years. It's a marathon, and working with AIB and all that, you develop those connections, and then he's at this level that he's in, right?
Think about someone like a Danny Sate, right? Last year he became this full viral
RCB right?
videos. Yeah, the one who makes all those the multiple actionable videos, right? Yeah. And why did he become big? And everybody said overnight sensation, came in news channels and all that stuff. And I had him on one of the podcast episodes, and he was like, "Yeah, people said overnight sensation, but I've been doing this for 10 years, right?" So he's been doing comedy shows. That's the thing. So you will get discovered. You don't know if you'll get discovered tomorrow, day after, 10 years down the line. But you also don't say static, right? You also evolve what you do. You learn from how much ever audience you have, whatever is working, not working. Keep evolving what you do. Fine tune it over time. And eventually you'll get to some goal. What goal you had when you started off might not necessarily be the goal you actually get at the end of it. But that I feel that end goal is even better.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. So coming to you personally, on a personal level, what is driving you today? What drives you every day to get up in the morning,
Um,
other than
I'm an
fitness?
over. So okay, now, let me explain fitness. Let me because since you mentioned it, I grew up a scrawny kid. I was this one, that really patla boy characters across. And everybody was saying, but you don't have to worry because you're thin. But I'm like, my problem is that I'm really thin. I don't put on weight. I'm like, I look this thing. So tried for the last like 10, 12 years to all forms of workouts. Right, go proper gym, take all your protein powders, do all of that stuff. Somehow last 1.5 years of being in lockdown, just started working at home, tried different forms of workout, started enjoying a lot of those, and actually got a lot more into it because when we had our daughter, I would walk around with her, and I had like this, I'd bulked up, so I had big biceps. I'd carry around, I'd get tired, and at some point, my wife Pooja said that what's the point of having big muscles? You can't carry a baby around, which is true. So that's when I kind of changed my mindset. So now I enjoy it, and one day I said like let's put it out. Now it's become a thing I share. But we spend so much time for that outer this thing when it comes to fitness. I'm just enjoying sharing these things. So I feel like there's so many workouts you can do which makes you feel healthier. That's what gives me the energy to do everything I do all day long. Because I sleep because we have a dog who's slightly older. So I don't sleep through the night. So I end up waking up because he might wake up for something and I just kind of keep a check on him. So I have my energy through the day because I work out every morning. So if I don't have that now, I'm just an thakela person through the day.
Got it.
But what keeps me motivated, to be honest, is that I'm genuinely a person who's enthusiastic about trying a lot of things, and now I get to try a lot of things. So every day I have 10 projects going on and 5 others in my head. But more than anything else, I just like to create stuff. I just generally like to not do things the traditional way. And every day I think I get the chance to kind of try out stuff, especially with the podcasts. Just like also slowly becoming more of a creator than just a podcaster. And with work as well, right? What keeps me up is that the whole media and advertising space is evolving so much right now. Things have changed so much in the last like 2-3 years. There's so much more you can do, which is not like anything we've done before. It's not creative anymore. What I actually enjoy in the advertising business is the non-creative stuff. Like I'm not a big like, okay, let's write a great ad film or what's the most creative idea. I'm thinking more like, okay, brands have gone from creating 2 ads a year to 20,000 pieces of creative in a year. How do you build a system, bringing in technology, bringing in different things to make sure that happens most effectively? So I think that also helps my left brain, right brain scenario, where my left brain is very focused on glitch, where I'm looking at that. My right brain's focused on my creator side. And that's what keeps me going. That I have as long as I have so many things to do in a day, I have all the energy to do it. If I just have one thing to do now, I'm a lazy person. I can be a really lazy person. Most people will laugh who know me when I say I can be a lazy person. But I used to be a lazy person when I only had one thing to do. If you give me 10 things to do, then I'll be fine.
Got it. Yeah. Similar, same story with me as well. If there are a lot of things to do, then that also keeps me excited कि भाई ये करना है.
Exactly.
And it's just one thing, कर लेंगे. And then the procrastination also comes in कि ठीक है रात को कर लेंगे, कल कर लेंगे.
Don't even get started. I'm a terrible procrastinator. I've spent years. I thankfully am married to someone who's very clear with taking calls. Like मुझे वो कभी बोलता है ना गाड़ी खरीदना है. I'd spend a year thinking about क्या होगा. She'd decide in a week. So I thankfully have her in my life and she helps out on that front. But yeah, because procrastination, the problem is that, but there's an interesting way to use procrastination, right? And I think that procrastination might stay with you because you're still trying to think, okay, how do I do this better?
Yeah.
But I think at least with the internet and how you create now, you create something, you learn from that, you move on to the next one. So you're constantly procrastinating, you're constantly iterating. So hopefully that won't delay you as much as it would have otherwise.
Yeah, makes sense. So what's the next challenge for you?
What's the next challenge? This is the new podcast launching. I'm doing a lot more video now than I've ever done. I had to kind of figure a set of people who will do it with me. Thankfully found a team who will work with me on that. And so for me, the next about 6 months is really going to be seeing how this new show goes. Because it's a slightly different format. It's mostly won't just be once a week. till now I've just announced it's once a week, but there might be an additional episode that comes out every week apart from. Sorry, that's my dog's barking.
Yeah.
There might be an additional episode that comes out every week, which I'm still working on. I'm still formulating that idea. It has to launch by this Friday, and apart from that, I've just been working on stuff around learning. Actually, one of the things which I've really been thinking about is that a lot of what I've learned on the podcast is something which people get a lot of value from. Is there some way to kind of channelize it in a better format? I don't know if it's a course. I don't know if it is something which is always on, but I'm dabbling with a bunch of ideas, and that's where procrastination is going on right now, at least for me. And I'm looking forward to how that goes. And I actually have a third podcast in the works, very early stage of developing it, but I'm actually doing a pilot for it on Wednesday just to see how it goes.
Nice.
But again, very different space. So
major announcement on the Mineral Travels. Yeah.
major announcement, right? Yeah, but it's been an idea in the works for a while. I'm doing it I'm doing something for the first time with a co-host, in a slightly different and very different format from what I've done before. So, and even like different audience altogether. So it should be fun to do. And yeah, also been trying to write a book for a long time. So hopefully that will also happen this year.
Oh wow, that would be interesting. Nice. But all right, so Varun, final question that I ask everybody in the podcast is 3 books, podcasts, and life lessons that you would want to share.
3 books that I'd love to share. If there's one book, especially after last year, that's kept me going, right? It's a book called The Daily Stoic. Stoicism is something that's really been up. It's something that kind of helped me through a lot over the last couple of years. I think mainly because it's very practical wisdom. And why I've said The Daily Stoic and not any of Ryan Holiday's other books is because you can flip to every day is just one quote and one learning, so you can flip to any page, and I do that. It's always on my bedside. It's actually right behind somewhere, I think. And you can just like pick it up, just read one chapter and go to bed. I think that's really helps. And nice. For all the stuff that you go through in life, it's good to have something like that with you. A podcast that I'd really recommend would actually be for anybody who's interested in the creative or the creator side. There's a podcast called Creative Elements, which I found very interesting. I discovered very recently. Just listened to a few episodes. I haven't listened to too many, but he talks to creators about not just the creative side of what they do, but really about how they monetize, how they scale up. So, you have a James Clear on one end as an episode because of Atomic Habits, but you also have a Ali Abidal in another episode, right? So it's interesting to kind of get perspectives, which is a recent discovery of mine. And just
you mentioned 3 each.
Oh, 3 each. Okay, let's do 2 more books then. What 2 other books? So I'm not going to the Austin Kleon ones because I mentioned I showed your work. But if you haven't read it, read the entire series. That's it's a great learning experience. There's a recent book which I read called Post Corona, which is by Scott Galloway. Also someone I follow a lot on his podcast, which is Pivot, which will be another recommendation of mine just to keep updated with what's happening in the whole tech and business space. It's great to read because he just doesn't talk about how the business world is changing. He talks about how the world is changing, and you can almost see trends about what's going to kind of come tomorrow, and he's got great insights on some of those. So a great book to read over there. And the last one, which is actually a book I finished recently, is called Range.
Okay.
I've been meaning to read it for a while, but I finally finished it. It's called Range. It talks about how there's been a conversation about specialists and generalists. It's like, should you really be a specialist? Should you be a generalist? And he really talks about how being a generalist can be a very interesting thing to be in today's world over being a specialist. And it's a great book. It's a couple of years old, but it's something I read very recently. On the podcast front, I mentioned Creative Elements. Pivot is my gold standard, right? So I listen to that like twice a week. A lot of it you can skim through because a lot of it becomes very American political and business environment, but there's so many insights you get in between all the American politics stuff, which I think gives you great understanding of things. I'm just kind of thinking of another one which I listen to quite regularly. And there's one called Work Life by Adam Grant. I enjoy that a lot, primarily because Adam Grant is this organizational psychologist. First ever podcast I listened to was this one.
Yeah,
it's kind of come back in a new season, but it's interesting because he talks about how people in different spaces work and how work and life connect together, and how we can make them both function well. Great one to listen to just for the insights and stuff he puts out there. And I had to give you recommendations of.
Advertising is Dead is also a podcast that you should listen to.
Advertising is Dead. Please listen to the Varun Duggi show as well.
Yeah.
And and I'm just thinking
Life
of
lessons.
like, what are the life lessons? One of the things that brought me to stoicism was one simple thing, is that there's so many things happening around you in the world. If you focus on everything, you're going to get overwhelmed. You feel the pressure. But if you just focus on the stuff that is under your control, because you can't control everything, right? You can only control what you can control. If you focus on that, you feel less pressure, and you can actually do a good job at what you can control. So always focus on the stuff you can control and not on the stuff you can't. That's one strong life lesson. Take it in shorter periods at a time. You can't say, okay, I really want to be a big filmmaker and start thinking about that from tomorrow. Say that, okay, in the short term, what do I want to achieve? In the long term, what do I want to achieve? And both those goalposts keep changing. So always keep moving that around. Like, I've never stuck to one single goal I've had in my life, because I think the goalpost always kept changing. Yeah. But I've always enjoyed everything that I've done in one way or the other. So don't get stuck on, okay, I need to get there. First go like the first couple of steps and figure out what you want to do right now over the next couple of weeks rather than next 5 years. So 5-year plan nahi hota hai. I think 3-month plan hota hai. And the last thing is that, and this has been one of my biggest learnings in recent times, right? Give yourself some time to be bored in a day. Give yourself half an hour.
Sort of like a meditation.
No, not even meditation, right? So that's the thing. So I struggle with meditation. But I read about getting bored, and I was like, 1 second. They said that before we had phones, before we had devices, you'd feel bored, right? You'd just lie down and look up at the roof, and you'd be bored. You'd do something, and that's when your mind thinks the most, which is why most of our ideas come to us when we are in the shower or in the loo and all this, washing dishes, because you're doing a mundane task. So for about 15-20 minutes in a day, put everything away, sit and just look out. Your best ideas will come to you then.
Now
that's why people go to the loo.
Yeah. So because
it has something to watch, right?
I struggle sleeping sometimes, and when I'm sleeping, I'm trying to sleep at like 1, 2 o'clock. All the ideas in the world keeps coming in my mind.
Exactly.
And I keep adding my notes, or I send voice notes. Let's do this. Let's do that to my team as well. So
because you don't have distractions, right? So that's the thing. So take away all distractions. I suck at it. I'm terrible. I'll reach my phone because I feel that each hour I need to go to it. But I've just started to do this religiously. You maybe get 5 minutes initially, 10 minutes, and then whatever. But it's great. You don't have to meditate. Just sit and don't do anything. Just lie down for all you care. Go to sleep if you want to. But that it's almost like, you have to switch off and switch on your phone sometimes when it's gotten hung. This is your way to kind of give it a little bit of rebooting time.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. Thank you so much, Varun, for doing this podcast.
Thanks,
I've listed it on your handles. Go follow him on Twitter, subscribe to his newsletter, follow him on Instagram, maybe send a connection on LinkedIn as well. I have linked down all the handles. Thank you so much, Varun. Was very insightful. And